Chris Watkin back again with James Dearsley, Proptech guru. James, over the last 5 years, I've seen so many Proptech firms come and go, loads of cash, then they seem to burn through it, in a matter of months.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think the wider industry can be very critical of technology firms, raising loads of money, and obviously you can raise money through private markets and angel investors, or you can go through Series A to E and then IPO, and there's often a lot of criticism there. I would argue that they, first and foremost, in a lot of cases, they need to raise that cash to scale. And I think that speaks for both UK market. They need to raise that money to because let's be honest, there are thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of agents, and they need to prove that concept and get it in, and that costs money. So there is a reason they need to do it. There is I think, speaking frankly to Proptech firms, in a lot of cases, and I'm not talking of all, I was an old founder. I'm 43 now. I founded Unissu in my late 30s, and I'd been around a bit, and I didn't have that sort of vanity and ego around raising money. But I think I can be critical, in some instances, again, not all, of some of the founders of companies can be quite young and inexperienced, and suddenly you've got a load of money stuck in your bank account, and people really believe in your vision. And in all seriousness, speaking from that absolute knowledge, when you have been banging the drum for the changes that need to happen within an industry, let's talk about fundraising. It probably takes the best part of 9 months from the idea of we need to go and fundraise to actually getting any semblance of understanding that we've got money in the bank. That is ridiculously difficult for them to do. They put their heart on the line as founders to raise that money. They have to speak to hundreds and hundreds of people, get rejected by hundreds and hundreds of people, and there might be 5 or 6 that suddenly believe in that vision. That is a massive ego challenge for these young and relatively inexperienced people. So there's 2 things that then happen. Let's say they get a load of money, and in the early stages it could be several hundred thousand, it could be up to several million at that point. The next thing, there are 2 things that happen. Number one, they get a load of cash and they just splash it on vanity items like merchandise and all that sort of stuff, which to the outside industry may be a bit reckless and stupid. But
fancy offices, staff.
Yeah, well, staff has always been planned in. So staff is often a different thing, because when you're pitching for money, you have to say this is
or main sponsor at one of the big shows.
Massive vanity.
They're
the
not
worst
cheap.
one is tube advertising. Oh my God, the amount of times I see people, and in particular, I suppose it makes sense for them, holiday rent people who've got massive tube advertising in London, and it's just a load of money just flitted away. But with staff, it's planned in. With marketing spend, they have to apportion marketing. Investors have to see how they're going to spend their money over an 18-month window. That's normally how long an investment cash runway will last. So a lot of that would have been planned in, but still, to the outside industry, is conservative and very specific and organized and planned. It can seem reckless. So I kind of understand it from their side, but there's a much more deeper aspect, I find, of the challenge of Proptechs earning a load of money, which is what we've termed as the ego gap, which is the moment that, and when I say we, this is myself and my now sort of business partner, Eddie Holmes, and we've seen this happen so many times, which is you get a load of money, and that work for 9 months or more of suddenly landing a load of money, and the belief of that company lands with, oh my God, someone believes in me. I can do this. I can change this sector. It isn't just about cash in the bank. It's this massive ego trip. And really what happens from the point where they raise the money to the next point they need to raise money or prove the concept is the ego, if you put it on a sort of line graph, the ego trip goes massive. And yet actually the education that they then need, or the expertise as the next step in the leadership journey they're going to go on, doesn't keep up. So you've almost got like sort of this ego trip going up here, and you've got this sort of education experience. You've got this massive gap in the middle, which we call the ego gap. And it just carries on going and going and going until they run out of money. And you've got this ego trip right up here, and then suddenly they've run out of money, bash, the ego drops down again. So it's a really challenging time for young, inexperienced founders which suddenly have to go on a huge learning journey, but their ego trumps it.
What advice would you give to PropTech and estate agency suppliers that raise money to keep that to allow their not let their ego go ahead, but have humility? Because let's be honest, you've been working your balls off for the last 9 months, and all of a sudden there's some big money in your bank account. So obviously someone believes in you.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy, to be honest. And I can now see from the journeys that I've been on why investors will always back second-time founders or slightly older founders who've been there and done that and got the T-shirt, because it's a proof of concept. They know that they're not going to necessarily fly away with it all. But I mean, as with any business, and I would recommend it to estate agents as well as technology suppliers, which is be surrounded by good people. Get the advisors, get the non-exec directors on board to ground you, and you will succeed if you are the leader that questions yourself. You're not going to be able to succeed if you let your ego get the better of you.
Thank you for your time today.
That's right.